walking through the wide receivers in the 2025 NFL draft class or 2026 NFL draft class here for summer scouting. So I had the chance to get eyes on 18 players in this class. Um, and I really liked what I saw, to be honest. I know that there's been some mixed reviews about this wide receiver class. My review is very positive. So, right after the introduction, we can get started on that. Technical difficulties. There we go. Okay, so all right. So starting off at number 10, the displays could be a little bit different today for the better. So starting off at number 10, we had Chase Roberts out of BYU, Elijah Surratt out of Indiana at number 9. Number 8 was Deion Burks out of Oklahoma. Number 7, Denzel Boston out of Washington. Number 6, Jordyn Tyson out of Arizona State. So very quickly, you can see that my title for the show does not hold true. But we'll get to that later. So Chase Roberts out of BYU, big fan of this guy. I got the plug on this. Watching the PFF Stock Exchange, Trevor Sikkema was a pretty big fan of Chase Roberts. So this was one of the last guys I got eyes on. I just figured that I would trust a very well trusted opinion in the NFL draft circle and Trevor Sikkema, and got eyes on him. And yeah, really, really good player. So really good hands with Chase Roberts. Some of the best hands in this class. Very reliable in terms of what he's provided by the quarterback. He's going to come down with passes like nobody's business. Ball skills are extremely good. One of the better traits, just individual isolated traits of anyone in this class, not just receiver, but just point blank period. Ball skills for Chase Roberts, I would classify them as elite. One of the best hands catchers in this class, very physical at the catch point, as displayed by that by what I just said about his ball skills. And I just love his grip strength. Just a lot of reliability in the fact that whenever you have him in a physical, standpoint as a defender, you can, the quarterback can rely on him coming down with the tough passes and coming down with those tough grabs. So as an athlete, we're not necessarily looking at the best athlete. This is one of my lower graded athletes at the position. He received a 4.4 out of 7 on that category. So a little subpar there. That's just adequate. And whenever it comes to these macro grades, these adequate grades are not really comparable, because whenever you really get down the board here, a lot of these guys are just really great athletes, which is kind of what separates Chase Roberts and puts him, even despite his ability to separate, despite his ability to come down with tough passes, his overall athleticism does draw him down in the wide receiver position. I really love his ability to see space, fill space as a route runner. So he's really good at operating against zone coverages. That's going to be something that these teams like, because even though he's not the best in terms of just like lining a guy up and, making a stutter step and getting open, he's able to create space on a routine basis just based off the fact that he is able to see space and fill space. That goes a long way at the pro level whenever you are missing the just pure raw athletic ability in terms of the one-on-one separation. So I really like his ability in terms of late games, situational moments, third downs, red zone, et cetera, et cetera. This is the guy. This is the target. extremely competitive in all facets of the game, and plays to the whistle. Good blocker. I think that this is a really good wide receiver group in terms of blocking, which is a little bit of a rarity over these past couple years. I think last year's was decent, but we haven't always had these really good blocking groups, and I do think that's because there is a decent amount of size in this group. Um, so moving on to number 9, Elijah Surratt, uh, out of Indiana. I think that this guy is going to really take off with Fernando Mendoza passing him the football this year. Real in reality, like in a full encompassing notion of what Indiana is this year, they really have a lot of great young guys. I have I think pretty much every single prospect that I've evaluated out of Indiana this summer has been really good. I know I discussed whenever we went over linebackers, I discussed my favor towards Aiden Fisher, the linebacker there at Indiana, but also beyond that, obviously just uh, brought up Surratt, but you have Fernando Mendoza transferring in from Cal this year. You have on the defensive line, you have Mikhail Kamara. You have D'Angelo Pons on the defense. So just a lot of talent. And I also have heard good things about Amari Farrell, the safety. So a lot of good talent, just draftable talent on both sides of the ball for Indiana this year. And Elijah Surratt is definitely one of those guys that just fits that bill. He is uh, 6 foot 2, 209 pounds. I have an official verified measurement on that, 6015 to be exact. So 6 foot 1 and 5/8. For Elijah Surratt in terms of height, 209 pounds. Extremely productive player, 957 yards last year, 8 touchdowns, 53 catches. Year prior to that, 1,199 yards, 82 catches, 8 touchdowns. The year before that, 41 receptions, 696 yards, and 13 touchdowns. Just a lot of production for him. And that like drop percentage has been relatively low his entire career. This year, it's did spike to 7% from 2.4% the year before, 0% the year prior to that. So, yeah, a big increase in terms of drop percentage, but 7 is still a pretty relatively good number, just a little bit subpar to, what he's been in the past. Um, yeah, we're looking at another player that's really good at just ball skills and catching the ball whenever the ball is thrown in his area. A really great grip strength. I do think that the dexterity of his hands isn't always where I'd like it to be. I do think his hand-eye coordination is a little off, but he does know when to. He does attack the ball whenever it's in the air. Has strong hands at the catch point. Another player who just plenty of functional strength, particularly in that upper body. The chest strength I think is really helpful whenever it comes to the physical contested catch situations. I think that top speed is going to be a little marginal. We're probably going to see one of the high 4.5, possibly even low 4.6 type of prospects here in Elijah Surratt. But he is able to make up for it in a number of ways. And this isn't someone that has just really any trait that is just a plus trait. Yeah, not particularly. Just looking through my uh, my individual trait grades for him. Nothing is a great or better grade. So that means that everything's pretty much ranging between this like average to good type of category. And that's typically something that there's 3 starting wide receiver spots on every single team in the NFL. Each team holds about 5 to 6 prospects at the wide receiver position. Uh, Elijah Surratt's going to be one of those guys whenever it comes to when he gets drafted. And a lot of that's just because he does everything right. I think that this is going to be someone that he has a floor of being a probably receiver for an NFL roster. And he has a ceiling of being a maybe a lower tier receiver too. And I just think that is just because you can rely on him to get things done. He takes care of business, and sure, not the best athlete, not some elite separator by any means, but he is a tough player. He can block, strong player, good after the catch. Um, he has his flashes every once in a while, and it's just like the that's enough to get you probably a receiver 3 role at the pro level. I don't think that there's a big ceiling for him. I don't know if I ever see him becoming a top tier wide receiver 1 type of guy, but he does have a pretty high floor in my eyes. And that floor is probably sitting around some wide receiver 4 spot on an NFL roster. So at number 8, Deion Burks, uh, out of Oklahoma, formerly transferred from, wow, I want to say Georgia Tech. That doesn't sound quite right. He transferred from Purdue. So played at Oklahoma last year, not too long, because he suffered a number of injuries. So he suffered an undisclosed soft tissue injury that knocked him out from weeks 4 to 10 last year, and then he had a concussion last week of the season. So he just kind of missed the rest of the year because of that. And well, he missed the majority of the year because of those injuries. I do think what I saw from him in 2024 was sufficient enough to make me feel pretty confident, though, about him being a top 10 prospect in this class. He's a small guy. I mean, he's 5'9" and 188. I don't think those were verified numbers. Sure, he's a small guy, but he is really gritty. He plays with a lot of competitiveness, finishes reps, and he takes care of business. He just does his job. And yeah, that goes a long way for me. And I think that he has these traits, these trademark traits that are going to take him a long way if he's put into a slot role on a roster at the pro level. One of the faster players in this class. I think that this is going to be a 4-3 type of guy. The acceleration is excellent. Some of the best acceleration of any player in this class, in my opinion. I judge speed in a multitude of like faucets. So there's first gear, which I believe to just be the initial first step. Then second gear is about like the first, if you're just running in a straight line, that's about the next like 5 yards after that first step. Breakaway speed is kind of, you're getting into that third gear, and you are maybe 10, 15 yards into your pursuit. And then distance speed is kind of where your stamina kicks in. That's when you're running. That's kind of in a 40-yard dash. That's kind of the last 30 to 40 yards, in my opinion. And I think Deion Burks is just an all-round great runner, especially when you get those first 5 yards are really great to see. He has a lot of acceleration near the initial portion of his release, which is one of the reasons why he's one of the best route stummers in this class, is just raw speed. And he has a lot of release package diversity, a lot of stutter steps, just a lot of different type of movements, angles, to be able to kind of just dance around for a split second, get where he needs to be. And he doesn't take too long doing it, which is great, because there are a number of times where I've scouted these guys and it's just like, okay, you clearly have a release plan, but the quarterback doesn't have all day for you to be coordinating dance class at the line of scrimmage for the first 1.5 seconds of the rep. You have to make 2 or 3 steps and go. And Deion Burks is pretty good about that. And that's something that you don't always necessarily see from these true slot guys. I'm not talking your CeeDee Lamb, Keenan Allen back in the day, Cooper Cup type guys, where it's like they play in the slot, but they could really easily play the X, outside receiver. Deion Burks is 5'9", 188. He's not playing some traditional, boundary receiver role unless you put him in as Z and you make him run vertically every play of every game. But whenever you do get these true slot guys that are built like true slot receivers, or traditional slot receivers, maybe is what I should say, it you don't always get the best release. Maybe they're great separators, but sometimes the release package isn't as diverse because a lot of the times you might be playing off line of scrimmage by a yard or two. And Deion Burks has that, which is something I really like, is he's able to just really gain the initial separation. Um, I don't like his vertical routes. I love his in routes. Out routes are okay. Stop routes are okay. Honestly, man, you could scheme up so many in routes for this guy, and use him as a just tool, a weapon, someone that plays a gadget role, a glorified gadget role on an offense, and you're going to get someone who could probably go out there and routinely get you 600, 700 yards, um, with with a little bit more of a ceiling than that, which is something I like. This isn't your traditional, slot receiver in that sense, where it's like, I'm a Cowboys fan. I loved Cole Beasley growing up. But Cole Beasley always had a ceiling, and that ceiling was, I believe, his 2015 year when he had like 800 yards. That was a ceiling, and that wasn't. I guess I think he went on to have a couple good years with Buffalo, but that's where you kind of see the ceiling. For most slot guys, I think Deion Burks could be a really, really good player down the road. Uh, but working out the slot, extremely fluid, extremely flexible, which is another thing that helps him. He's he's a good route runner, not a great one. I think I mentioned it earlier. I don't like seeing him vertically. I do like seeing him work the middle of the field. I like seeing him with the in routes. Don't like seeing him on the boundaries. That screams, just slot receiver there. Obviously, that's what his skill set is. Um, and you're going to get good blocking from a small dude. Like this is a really talented player. I think that um, uh, the combination of what he is as an athlete and what he is in terms of uh, how he operates at the line of scrimmage is going to get him a long-term job and probably earn him the rights to a day 2 selection at the very worst. He's going to be a early fourth round type guy. Um, and yeah, so big fan of Deion Burks. I think that coming off of injury this year, he should be able to prove himself and care of business with Oklahoma, with John Mateer throwing in the football this year. So that puts us at Denzel Boston, number 7 on my list, out of Washington. If I can pull him up here. So Denzel Boston, Washington. This is a big dude. Trying to pull up measurements here. So 6'3" and 1/8, 209 pounds. This is a pure X receiver, no doubt about it. Reminded me of Nico Collins, just a watered down version of that. Um, Production wise, scored really well in terms of the advanced metrics. His actual tangible production was 63 receptions, 834 yards, 9 touchdowns last year, drop rate of 4.5%. That was his breakout year, pretty much his only year that he has put together relevant numbers. So ball skills, another receiver in this class right here with just fantastic ball skills. I don't know if I would classify them as elites, but they're up there. I think the only elite receiver in terms of that category was the aforementioned Chase Roberts out of BYU. But so Denzel Boston, great ball skills, blocking, run after the catch skills. I think that there is just a lot to like here. Um, you don't have a lot of giant weaknesses in his game. And I mean, maybe you could throw into the fact that he's not very experienced and he's not very fast, but I don't think those are seriously hindering him back in any sense. Um, uh, I I just think there are so many tools here that haven't been fully tapped into. And what's amazing about that is he doesn't have a fully tapped into, resume and skill set yet. But he already has a really good floor, I think, just based on the fact that how he's built, the way he's able to attack the ball. I think he has really good hands in terms of just the pass and catch ability, no strings attached, no, uh, having to go above the ladder, above the rim, or anything like that. I think that just as a pass the ball, catch the ball type of receiver, um, he's probably one of the best in this class, just in terms of dexterity, grip strength, all of the above, attacking the ball in the air. Vertically, this is one of the better receivers in this class, despite maybe not having the fastest long speed. I don't know about him working the middle. I'm not a huge fan of the in routes, out routes, but I do think he's adequate in both of those categories. Good with stop routes, despite his lack of, uh, you know, elite deceleration ability. I think he is able to use his footwork to be able to stall out his rep and come back towards the football. So I do think that he's good in terms of stop routes. So this is clearly a boundary type of guy. If the height weight didn't tell you enough there, the just every single sense of the strengths and weaknesses makes this guy someone that is going to be a pure X receiver at the pro level. I think that eventually Denzel Boston has a role as a receiver too, at the pro level, and that could be pretty soon. That could be pretty late. I don't know, but the traits are there. Um, I would like to see him. I mean, maybe uh, be a little bit more competitive as a blocker. I think he has the tools there, clearly, with his height, strength, and everything, but he's not always willing to get in there. I want to see him work on his release package as well. I think that he just has the size and strength to be able to get by, but there are times where he can get like very, very stalled out by um, press coverage. And he doesn't have so he doesn't really have a plan initially, and he doesn't have a very good counter plan when he gets stalled, other than okay, I'm big, I'm strong, I'll move you. He doesn't really have much other than that, which is a little questionable, but we'll see. So another player who's not much of an athlete, but he is a technician, and he just, I mean, he knows how to just make ends meet, and that's something that is really interesting to me. So Denzel Boston, number 7, and now this is the blockbuster of the group, but Jordyn Tyson. This is kind of the run of the mill consensus receiver 1 this summer at the wide receiver position. I don't fully see it. I think that there's a lot there though. Route running is fantastic. I think that there's a lot of fringe elite traits, and there's not a lot of bad traits. Just looking at the primary traits that I have for the receiver position, um, there's not one trait here that I'm looking at grade wise that has a sub 5.0, which means that he's good. He's good in every single one of the primary traits of the position. And yeah, and I just don't know, if other than route running, if there's anything that is just blockbuster about him. Something that makes me sit here and be like, I'm drafting him top 15, which I feel like is maybe kind of the consensus for him. I don't quite see that. But that doesn't mean that there's not a lot to like about him. He's someone that you watch and you're just like, this guy just gets it done. And the separation is fantastic. I do wish that he had a little bit of a better, in terms of his release package. I do wish that he was a little bit better in the initial portion of his reps at the line of scrimmage, but that's something he can improve on with time. Great at filling space, seeing space and filling space in the zone. Very patient and disciplined route runner. And in terms of just all of his operations, he plays with patience. He doesn't get overzealous. He doesn't, uh, uh, yeah, he plays with a disciplined attitude, which is something I like. He doesn't speed by his routes and miss a step. Not a lot of that. Very poised player, very situational player. I do wish that we could have seen him down the stretch in the playoffs, but he did have an undisclosed collarbone injury. It may have been like a fractured collarbone. I'm just speculating there, but I do wish we would have been able to get to see him against like Texas. I think that may have been the difference. That probably very well could have been the difference in that game that could have moved Arizona State on to the next round of the playoffs. Uh, very nuanced in his vertical routes and in routes. I I just love the way that he's able to work on posts, any vertical route, any go routes, anything like that. You are going to see a lot of production, a lot of separation there. Um, he he's probably gonna be like a 4-4 type of guy. Um, great deceleration, extremely fluid, extremely loose athlete with good enough functional strength. I think he's good in terms of his upper body functional strength, but the lower body is a little thin, which is again just the body type. I think I mentioned it earlier, but 6'1", 195 pounds, just the body type and the way he functions reminds me very much of Ceedee Lamb. I've mentioned it. I'll probably keep mentioning it whenever it comes to my pro comps are stylistic. So I'm not saying he's going to be Ceedee Lamb. I'm not saying he's going to be one of the top 10 receivers in the NFL in due time, but that is a possibility for this in this particular situation. That is a possibility for Jordyn Tyson. I just want to see him do it again this year. Do almost exactly what he did last year this year, and then I'll feel a lot more comfortable about the possibility of drafting him top 15. But for now, that's receiver 6. Currently he's sitting in the top. I think he's 31 on my big board right now. So still a big fan of him. Just need to see a little bit more. All right, so moving on to the top 5, Eric Singleton out of Auburn now. He transferred from Georgia Tech. This dude is lightning fast. This is one of the fastest players in this class. I think I had one player grade out faster at the receiver position. Let me confirm that. I think it may have been the other Eric. I think it may have been Eric Rivers. Yeah, Eric Rivers was the fastest receiver. I'll mention him in a bit, but um, in terms of my play speed evaluation portion of this position. Eric Rivers was number 1 and Eric Singleton number 2. So lightning quick for Eric Singleton. I guess I'll preface he reminded me very much so of Brandon Cooks. I think Singleton is going to be a Z receiver at the pro level. He is a little flimsy, a little thin, which is something that I don't necessarily love to see for a slot guy. So that's why I was just like, let's put him outside. Let's have him run a lot of vertical routes. We can do a lot of scheme production, screens, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that that's a good spot for him to play out there at the Z role. He had really good hands, honestly. One of the best just uh, at excuse me, hang on, let me backtrack here. Oops. All right. We're looking at the wrong evaluation. Not very good hands backtracking there. So doesn't attack the ball very well with the ball in there. I was looking at the wrong notes earlier. Dexterity is marginal. Grip strength adequate. So the hands in particular, not the most reliable. Although the drop percentage was a very average to slightly above average 6.7% last year. Um, Feet are well placed, very quick footwork that helps him backtrack towards the football. Um, I love how low he plays. I think that helps him in terms of just his overall athletic trajectory. Um, Fantastic acceleration, pursuit speed, distance speed is really good as well. I think that this is going to be a 4.3 guy, early 4.3 guy, probably come the combine. Excellent twitch and overall quickness, which is just one of his best traits. Um, I do think that he's a little marginal in terms of his overall functional strength, but I'm not too worried about that. Um, Very fluid, very controlled player. I think that there are some times where whenever he has to stop on a dime on a route, he does overrun it a little bit by a couple steps, but nothing that concerns me. There's a number of guys here that are just really fast and they have a hard time controlling it whenever it comes to plants and come back to the football. Uh, that's how that's something I saw with like Eugene Wilson, just an ability to stop and turn. And there's a couple of other guys that share that same trait, but not a problem in particular for Eric Singleton. Good at the release point, plays with plenty of just finesse at that area in terms of his release package and overall release plan. And then you combine that with just the fact that he has just insane bursts. He's able to really quickly just gain separation. Um, I think that he could play with a little bit more. It's a little difficult to explain, but a little bit more ease through his routes. I think sometimes he's just trying to NASCAR race through them, and there are times where he could just slow down by a millisecond and be a little bit more nuanced with his movements, and that's going to help him slingshot across these cuts, and that'll help him in a number of different areas. But vertically, that this is one thing that did give me a little bit of pause because I think he does have a lot of tools, but vertically, he didn't gain a ton of separation in my eyes. So I did think vertical routes were a little bit of a challenge, which is something that um, gives me some concerns for him at the Z position. But again, he just does not have the size and bulk to be able to handle the middle of the field work that is required with playing slot in terms of the blocking and whatnot. But that is an area that does provide some question for me. I think that this is a challenge I had for a guy that I'll talk about here in a couple of days, but Avion Terrell and the nickel for Clemson. Well, I project him as I was going to project him in the nickel. He's a cornerback out of Clemson, but then by the time I completed my evaluation, I'm like, okay, the size matches up. I get it, but I don't know how you can place a guy who has this laundry list of issues that just don't match up for the nickel and the nickel just because of the size, even though I don't think that he has the traits to succeed on the boundary. Eric Singleton has a little bit of that in his game, where there are some challenges there. I don't know about the exact fit there at the Z position, but you could probably move him around, maybe even play him at a hybrid role. But for now, Z is the best I can project him to through the summer scouting exercise. So moving on to number 4, Antonio Williams out of Clemson. So Williams is first off, I guess, listed at 5'11", 190 pounds, verified measurements there for him. 5'10" and 3/4, 3/4 was the measurement for Antonio Williams. This is a very, I think I mentioned this with Singleton that I didn't see just the ease through his route running. where it's like, okay, I can slow down from the NASCAR, uh, the NASCAR mentality of just like speed running through these cuts. That's the exact opposite for Antonio Williams. There's a lot of gracefulness in the way he operates, which is something I really like to see considering he's not a stellar athlete. He's a good athlete, not a stellar one. I don't think he's going to go out there and run a 4.4. This is probably an early 4.5s type of guy. I don't think he's the most twitched up, strongest type of guy, but he has good enough traits in terms of his athleticism, but he does need, for him to be sitting here at number 4 for me. He did need some things to compensate for it, and he did compensate for that with his processing and technique. And particularly, like I mentioned, just his patience through his route running, not someone to just speed run by it. Very nuanced in terms of pretty much any route in the book. Vertical routes, really, he scored a great grade for me in that category. In routes, out routes, I thought out routes were just an excellent route for him. So I'd like to see that a lot at the pro level. But stop routes, just a really diverse route tree there that he's able to run if utilized accordingly. The hands were not the best. I think that the ball skills weren't incredible by any means. They were actually kind of average, but he's going to get open. He's going to create separation. I do think that you can work on the dexterity a little bit. And if you can do that, then this is going to be someone who's going to be a starting slot at the pro level, and he's probably going to be pretty dang good at it. My comp for him, Christian Kirk, which is almost exactly what I would say. Like I mentioned, these are stylistic, but that's one where it's like, this is very much in the cards for Antonio Williams to become that exact type of player. And a Christian Kirk type of guy is someone that you draft in the second round. Antonio Williams could very well go on to be a guy that gets 900 yards for you every year, is a really good second option, works out of the slot, and just puts his head down, takes care of business. One side note, good at blocking, has a mentality for it. And yeah, this is a good player. Again, receiver 4 for me, Antonio Williams out of Clemson. Now, this is one of the more interesting guys I watched. I bet, honestly, at this point, you're probably, wondering what this list looks like after Antonio Williams. But yeah, Eric Rivers, Georgia Tech, here at number 3, transferred over from FIU, Florida International, to Georgia Tech, taking over almost. I mean, probably there's no way he doesn't take over just exactly what they had Eric Singleton do here at Georgia Tech. Now that Eric Singleton just transferred over to Auburn, I think I mentioned that earlier. But Rivers was someone that I had no expectations for. Again, I mentioned earlier, I'm a big fan of this show, but PFF Stock Exchange, shout out Trevor Sikkema and Connor Rogers, but Connor Rogers' pet cat in that show, in their summer scouting this year, was Chase Roberts. Connor Rogers is, I'm sorry, Trevor Sikkema's was Chase Roberts, and Connor Rogers was Eric Rivers. So I naturally gave both of those prospects a look because I very much respect those gentlemen's opinion, and they were both very accurate on their assessment. Just both of these guys were really underrated. But onto Eric Rivers. This is one of the fastest players in this class. This could be a 4.2 type of guy, possibly. Extremely agile, elite body control. This is one of the best athletes, point blank period, in this class. And his game against, hey, I know the team not much of an honorable piece of tape to watch, but it was what I could find because FIU tape is not easy to come by. But New Mexico State University, his game against New Mexico State University was maybe the best piece of tape I've ever watched in my life. This is year 8 of evaluation, by the way. So extremely impressive in that game. Believe he had 15 catches, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. So obviously statistically remarkable, but this was a game where it was like all he needed to do was run, quarterback tossing the ball, touchdown. And it just happened over and over again. It's just like it was just backyard football. Um, and there was no magic. I mean, nothing special to it. He's so fast and he can I mean, just take care of business vertically. I think that this is one of the best vertical threats in this class, maybe the best. And I guess before I move on, I'll mention the comp, which is Jalen Waddle. It's so clear to me that this is someone that what we saw from Jalen Waddle, I want to say 2 years ago, was probably the best year we've seen out of Jalen Waddle in Miami so far in his career. I think that's what you could very well get from Eric Rivers on a yearly basis. And you're really getting someone who's maybe a mid to low tier receiver one, but this is someone that if you put on your roster as your receiver two, you probably have, I mean, very, very possibly have the best receiver two in the league. By the time he's drafted, that's how highly I think of Eric Rivers. Do I wish that we would? I know he transferred up to Georgia Tech, but do I wish that we would be able to see him play at a more glorified organization against more glorified opposition? Absolutely, but not the case here because we're going to see him in Georgia Tech, and unless he decides to go back for another year of school, that's going to be it. So the competition's not going to be incredible, but I don't think it needs to be because I just see all the tools in this guy. It's clear as day. The feet are incredible, and I measure foot quickness by foot placement, or I'm sorry, footwork. I measure it by in 3 different things: foot placement, foot speed, and ankle flexion, and just excellent in all those traits. His feet are just absolutely phenomenal. Um, Plays with good pad level, which is something that helps him break down and come back to the ball and stop routes, and as well as something that helps him with contact balance. He is again one of the fastest players in this class, probably the fastest. I think that this is going to be a 4.2 type of guy. I think we hear that every year where people, scouts start saying this is going to be a 4.2 type of guy, and it's some guy that eventually, is like a fourth, fifth round type of talent, and he goes out there and he runs a, 4.3, 5, 4.4. This is someone where I could almost guarantee that this is going to be someone that gets out there and he's going to run a 4.2. I'll guarantee a 4.3 with the possibility of a 4.2. High possibility. I think that this is going to be the fastest player in this class. I don't really need it. I've only watched 100 guys this year. And obviously there's going to be 250 plus guys drafted. I don't need to watch every single player in this class to know that Eric Rivers is quite possibly the fastest guy in this class. Extremely fluid athlete too, so he knows how to control it. He's got a lot of body control in there to really be able to hone in what he has in terms of speed and agility, which is just something that's so huge. I think we saw this in Isaiah Bond last year. Obviously, Isaiah Bond didn't get drafted for a multitude of reasons. Now he's with the Browns after a particular case got dropped on him. But with him, one thing that I recall seeing whenever I first evaluated him was his inability to decelerate and kind of just control and stop and gather with the amount of speed that he had because he was very fast. Coming out of Alabama, going over to Texas, it was clear that they wanted him to fill the Xavier Worthy role. But the challenge with Bond is he did not have the body control to be able to really collect it And that's something that I see with Eric Rivers, where he has the speed, he has the athleticism, he has the tools, and he can collect it with his body control, his ability to move fluidly across all areas of his body, his upper body, his mid body, and his lower body. And that's something that helps him be able to really maximize his gifts as an athlete. Good at the release point, good at filling and filling space in zone coverage. Um, Knows how to kind of just has this natural feel to drift into openings. Um, that's an area though that it's like, oh, I can tell comparatively this is, an excellent trait for him, but I can't quite get there because when you're playing New Mexico State, respectfully, some of these guys on the defense know how to fade away from where they need to be. And in turn, a guy like Eric Rivers, who I have an early second round grade on, he knows how to fade into vacancies in coverage. And that's just something that it creates a little bit of a discrepancy as an evaluator, because it's hard to kind of see on a level ground what this guy looks like whenever he's playing future car salesmen and insurance salesmen, um, at the college level. So that's another area where I do wish that we could see him at a higher level of play. I will definitely get to see that with a little bit of a clearer lens now that he's going to play at Georgia Tech in the was that conference USA, ACC, in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Um, so a little more comparable to the pro level, but still, that's a long distance away from the guys that he's going to be going up against. Um, I didn't see a lot of effort as a blocker. I don't care. He's just going to be playing Z, and he's going to be playing the Z receiver role. You're going to ask him to run straight down the field. You're going to ask him to do ins, outs, etc. He's going to be a decoy whenever it comes to blocking reps, or he's going to be pulled off the field. So that's not something that he's probably ever going to grow into. Maybe they'll get to the point where they can get him to be a little bit more competitive. And even though he's not a very strong player, he can just stand there and kind of use his body to body off defenders. But that's not going to ever be a plus trait for him. All right, Jaden Greathouse, number 2, Notre Dame receiver. Let me pull up the measurements. So we got him at 6'1" and 215 pounds. I don't believe those are verified. So I think this was this my last? I think this is maybe my last player that I watched. No, I think Nick Harbor was. Actually, now that I think about it, I think Nick Harbor was the last player I watched. But this was one of the last guys that I was able to get eyes on for this class. And wow, just really good, really smooth player. I mean, he's not a stellar athlete, but he's a good one. And he's not going to go out there and run a 4.4. He's going to run a 4.5 probably. He's not going to go out there and dominate the 3-cone or anything like that. And he's pretty strong, which is good. That's why I have him as a slot guy. But overall, you're not getting an incredible athlete, but you're getting a smooth one. This is someone who knows how to control his movements, make the right steps, make the right upper body and lower body movements to remain coordinated through his routes, which is going to gain him just an extra layer of distance from the defender on a rep to rep basis. And that was pretty visible. And I believe it was the Penn State game where he was just able to gain. I mean, they were one of the best reps in the college football playoff. He set up a defender, sent him flying, broke his ankles, caught the ball, broke another defender's ankles in the pursuit of the end zone. Did it, touchdown, great. But really good route runner. I don't know if I'd classify him as elite in that category, but he's very good at it, and I think he's one of the best at it in this class. Other than a couple of the guys that I've mentioned today, I think that he's probably one of the top 5 route runners in this class. Decent in terms of his ability to stem initially in the route. Doesn't have some incredible plan at the release point, like I mentioned for Deion Burks, but he does have the size and he has enough fluidity to be able to kind of just wiggle past and out physical when he needs to. I think he's less of a anticipator or a planner earlier on in the rep in terms of his release package, and he's kind of more of a counter and read react type of guy whenever it comes to that first couple steps of the rep. But yeah, that does go a long way for him. I think his combination of coordination and competitiveness makes him one of the best blockers in this class as well, which is just another reason why I think he would fit in beautifully as a slot receiver. He actually got the best blocking grade, I believe. Yeah, him and Chris Bell out of Louisville received the best blocking grade in this class for receivers. Obviously, that's not some blockbuster trait for these guys, but it is a plus trait when you get a receiver coming out of college who can already block pretty well. Really good ball skills. He also had a 2.3% drop rate last year. And the combination of just his dexterity and uh, his competitiveness makes him really good at the catch point. So that's something I really love to see from a slot receiver. And he has that. So just a really well-rounded guy. And this is someone that, I mean, I mentioned it earlier with Jordyn Tyson, how it's like there's not a lot of things to dislike. It's just a lot of good traits. But what I like about Jaden Greathouse, and this is because he's so well fit for the slot, and I like Jordyn Tyson. I think he's fit for the X receiver or the Z receiver spot, but I just see a little bit more blueprint of Jaden Greathouse dominating in the slot than I do from like someone like Jordyn Tyson in the Z receiver role, which is, I guess tying that all into my little thesis here is there is such an importance of scheme. And I think that Jaden Greathouse just has such such profound upside in the slot that I just can't help but be excited about his future in the NFL when it's so clear to me that if you drop him in the slot on your offense, you have a really high floor guy who has the ceiling of probably 1,200 yards coming out of the slot. So that's why I see in Jaden Greathouse. And number 1, USC's Mekhi Lemon, just fantastic player. This is my only first round grade of this group. I actively have, let's see, I actually have 9 first round grades during summer scouting. There's a couple positions I still need to work my way through. So that number will probably be around 11, 12 when it's all said and done for summer scouting. But yeah, this was my highest graded receiver. And there was quite a bit of distance between him and Jaden Greathouse and everyone else. Let me pull up his evaluation, but one of the best, I think he received the best route stemming / release grade in this class. Yeah, he did. Best at the release point of the rep. One of the best route runners in this class, I think maybe behind Eric Rivers and Jordyn Tyson. He was probably the best. And he can catch the ball really dang well. He received a great grade quote, great grade uh, in terms of his ball skills, best run after the catch receiver in this class, and he's a decent blocker as well. Um, he had a 1.9% drop rate last year, excellent advanced metrics all the way across the board. Um, we still haven't seen him go out there and get a 1,000 plus yard season and just dominate and be, in this really profound, well discussed realm in the college football world. But I think he's bound to this year. You also have to factor in the fact that uh, you had like three guys transfer out of that USC receiver room, and now they're going to have hopefully a little bit more steadiness at the quarterback position. And yeah, there's just a little bit more, a lot more of an opportunity for Makai Lemon to just go out there and put up the numbers that you want to see. But in terms of what I did see, a really fast player, really knows how to see the field as well. I think that's so important whenever you're fast, is that you're able to see the field fast as well, because being physically fast and mentally fast, those are two different things. But combined, those are that's one very good trait. And that's something that Makai Lemon has, is just play speed, is great play speed. Um, has great body control, knows how to stem really well, knows how to create separation, um, and has great hands. He's able to come down with the ball. This isn't the most functionally strong player. He's not going to play super physical in terms of, press coverage or anything like that, but he is able to play with finesse. And that's something I've learned in my time scouting, is that if you can, separate really well and you can catch the ball really well, I feel like that's just beginner's knowledge of a receiver position. But the longer you get into it, the more you realize that that's just the truth with this position. But if you can do those two things, you're going to be probably a pretty good receiver at the pro level. And that's what Makai Lemon is. And it doesn't end there. And that's like I said, I think his best trait is his run after the catch ability. And even without that, even if he was just average in that area, this is a guy that would probably be competing for a first round pick in my eyes. Um, I don't know if I mentioned, but he's 5'11 and a quarter, 195 pounds. What I see whenever I look at Makai Lemon is maybe, a little smaller version of this, but I see Jamar Chase. Um, I don't know if, I don't think he's going to be that good of a player, but stylistically, I see Jamar Chase. And I see someone that should probably become a pretty good receiver one day. And I think that could be someone that finds, himself into top 10 receiver in the NFL discussions in 3 years. And yeah, there's just a lot of upside here. It's so clear to me that Makai Lemon has a future at the pro level. He has a ceiling. He has a floor in my eyes too. And that's just so alluring for the pro level. All right. So that's going to wrap up the top 10. I'll reread the top. Well, I'll go over a couple guys here that missed the list, and I'll reread that top 10 before we get out of here. But um, I also watched 8 other guys. I'll just go down that list in order from 11 to 18. So Chris Bell out of Louisville, Zachariah Branch out of Georgia, Eugene Wilson out of Florida, KC Concepcion out of Texas A&M, transferred in from NC State there. Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. I was really low on him. I didn't see a lot there for him to have a lot of success um, at the pro level. Honestly, I think he's very much like a skeleton of what he could be. But Brian Hartline is the receiver, or is the OC there at Ohio State. We've seen him work wonders. That's where he has a possibility of eventually earning this, day one, day two status that people have talked about. It's not there right now, though. Nick Anderson out of LSU at 16. That's largely because of his injury, largely because there's very little tape to watch on him. 17, Jacoby Lane out of USC. Nick Harbor out of South Carolina at 18. And that's the list. Nick Harbor, another guy that it's just like he's fast, he's big, end of list. And that's not enough for me. All right. Yeah. So I really like this receiver group. I think that there's a lot of upside for these guys. I think that there could be 5 guys that go in the first round, maybe. I mean, Lemon, uh, Tyson, Boston, and I'm only skipping around here because not everyone's gonna be high on the guys that I'm high on, but I gotta believe that Eric Rivers' skill set will be seen. So that's like 4 guys that I'm just like probably, and then we'll see a couple of these other names that I brought up start to run up this board and run up in terms of the NFL attention that they get from these 32 teams and probably earn themselves a first round pick. But I really like this group. I think that this group has a ceiling. I know that there's been a lot of question marks about this group by the mass media, but me personally, I see the tools. I also have, I mean, the last 3 names in general, those were all names that, you know, in most circles, they're not even in the top 5. Maybe Mekhi Lemon is the top 5 guy in the mass media, but he's on the lower end of that. So yeah, I do have a pretty diverse list here, and I recognize that, but I do feel pretty confident in what these players can become. So let's read off these names really quick, and then I'm going to get out of here. So Chase Roberts, BYU at 10, Elijah Surratt, Indiana at 9, Deion Burks, Oklahoma at 8, Denzel Boston out of Washington at number 7. At number 6, we have Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. Number 5 is Eric Singleton out of Auburn. Antonio Williams out of Clemson is number 4. Eric Rivers out of Georgia Tech is number 3. Jaden Greathouse out of Notre Dame, number 2. And Mekhi Lemon out of USC clocks in at number 1. So that is that. Yeah, so we if I can figure out how to anyways. So yeah, we're gonna get back to you, I think, tomorrow with more of these rankings. And there we go. I think we're going to do quarterbacks tomorrow, myself and Ayush. It depends on scheduling, but Ayush actually got the chance to work through the quarterbacks um, and rank his own top 10. So we're going to be doing this collectively tomorrow, hopefully, if all things go according to plan, scheduling wise. But in the meantime, I'm going to let you guys go, and hopefully we'll get back to you soon with some more summer scouting.